Hello everyone, my name is TyRonda Smith and I am making this video so that way I can be able to introduce people to me on social media. I'm very new to making content, and so this is going to be a learning experience for me as well as for you guys. But I figured I would make this video because what I really want to be able to do is just to be able to introduce myself to the people who will come across this video or be interested in my growth and whatnot. So as an introduction from me to you guys, again, my name is TyRonda Smith, and in the state of Arizona, I am what's considered a licensed naturopathic doctor. So that means in the state of Arizona, I was allowed to be able to practice medicine. That included prescribing medications like Schedule 3 drugs, I was able to suggest different supplements, herbal products, and things like that. I was also able to do different treatments like hormone replacement therapy, regenerative medicine, acupuncture, different things that were considered water therapy like constitutional hydrotherapies, as well as many other things. So I won't go into everything that I was able to do as a licensed naturopathic doctor in the state of Arizona, but I was in the state of Arizona practicing medicine at a clinic in Scottsdale for about a good 3.5 years. Actually, it's a little bit longer than 3.5 years. So longer than 3.5 years, but less than 4. But I say all this to say I look at those years as considered like my residency years, and it was a very great learning experience for me. And it was actually really fulfilling at times, but I got to a point where I just wasn't really feeling that fulfilled anymore. And it took me a while. I wouldn't even say that. It didn't take me a while to notice why I wasn't feeling fulfilled, but I felt like I couldn't quite describe it at first. I knew what was making me uncomfortable, but I couldn't quite put it into words. So I realized that what I was seeing in my field of practice was that a lot of the treatments that are very popular in the world of naturopathic medicine, usually you have to have a nice amount of money to afford those things. And in Scottsdale, well, people have money. It's just, a thing. But I was noticing that it was creating what I would consider a healthcare disparity. It was becoming like a thing of the haves and the have-nots, and it's not even just with them, it's like with a lot of other things as well, just with healthcare in general. Prices for a lot of stuff is going up, including medications as well, and different treatments. Everything is costing more money, and you're not sure what insurance is going to cover, as well as it's just certain things insurance aren't going to cover at all, but if you have the money to afford it, you can do that. But I was noticing it was becoming a lot of the haves and have-nots, and I'm from Detroit. I'm born and raised in Detroit. I'm a straight up Detroit girl. I'll rep Detroit to the death of me type of person. So just giving y'all that, I am a Detroit girl, and I saw a lot of that in Detroit. And it was just like, I'm on the other side of that where you're seeing all of the people with the haves, but I'm also from the side where a lot of the people were the have-nots. And I realized that was not what I had pursued medicine for, especially this type of medicine. I had pursued it because I saw those health disparities in my own community, and I wanted to be able to provide resources for them. And I just wasn't being able to do that as I was continuing to be a licensed naturopath doctor in the state of Arizona, where I practice in a clinic in Scottsdale. So with that being said, I decided that I'm going to uproot my life, and I decided to move back to Michigan, where I'm not licensed because Michigan does not provide licensure for naturopathic doctors at this time. But there are still things that I can be able to do. I can't engage in what is considered health consulting, which that is like working with people on their lifestyle, their diet, and as well as like also suggestions on different like herbs or supplements and things like that. So I can do those things here in the state of Michigan. And I realized that was actually my true passion anyway. What drew me to naturopathic medicine was the botanical medicine, or the herbs, you would say. I did get certified in herbology before I left. I was working with Dr. Jesse Brown in the Detroit Holistic Center, and with him, I was able to learn that there are a lot of different herbs like growing around the neighborhoods in Detroit, because the thing is, in Detroit, because because the residential neighborhoods have not been as attended to as the downtown. There are a nice amount of empty lots or like abandoned homes and things like that. And when people don't do the upkeep on those, a lot of wildlife tends to grow. And that is actually an amazing thing, because a lot of the things that we have been taught to see as weeds actually have a lot of medicinal value. So that lets you know that there are certain things that you can get in your own neighborhoods that you probably would have to pay a nice amount of money for to get it as a supplement or a tea or something like that. So me uprooting my life to come back to Michigan, one of the things that I wanted to focus on was educating people on what is around them. So the beginning of my time and social media content is going to be built around just educating people on different things that's around them. I know it's a terrible time of the year to decide to do that because it is about to be winter soon, but there are still some things that are available, so I still will be able to show you some things before we get into the very cold weather when everything goes away. But in the meantime, I promise I will make sure you guys know what things look like, because that was another thing about naturopathic medicine. Then, like, we learned a lot about herbs. We didn't necessarily learn how to identify them out in the wild and how to cultivate them. And I want to be able to do more with that. So I figure if it's something that I want to do more of, some of you guys will probably want to do more of it too. But on top of that, I do want to start my own business where I'm offering herbal products. I did a poll recently where I was looking at different health issues that a lot of people want to address, and I did ask Detroiters because, again, in Detroit, and that is one of my main focuses, and a lot of the issues that people want to deal with were going to be the main issues that tend to affect Black people disproportionately anyway when it comes to our health, but especially here in Detroit, because we are what's considered a food desert. We're not, in some ways, we're not a food desert because we have a lot of access to food, but we're also a food desert because we don't always have access to fresh food. And sometimes the fresh food in the local supermarkets are just not that fresh, and they're also not that cheap either. So that brings me to the other thing I want to focus on. I do want to get more involved with what are called urban farms that are popping up around the city. But I also want to promote other people to get involved with different urban farms, because at the end of the day, I want you guys to have more agency over your health, and being able to know that you had a hand in providing your own food and bringing it to your own table, I feel like it's able to give you that. So I know one of the urban farms that popped up is like D-Town Farms, and they provide a nice amount of food that goes to the Detroit Food Co-op that is in downtown Detroit off of Woodward. And then I know one of my childhood friends, Rakia, she has the Alma Street farm that she's working on. It is doing some food, but it's also doing just a lot of like different plants as well. But she also wants to use that as like a community space. So I would say if you're hearing about different urban farms, get involved, be able to do what you can to be able to make sure those are successful, especially with things like tariffs hitting us hard, and it's going to be making the price of groceries go up. So I want us to be able to just be on top of those things. So again, I want to focus on providing the health consulting, helping people with their diet, helping people with their exercise and nutrition and lifestyle, including things like sleep as well. And then also just making sure people have resources to get fresh food, know how they're doing that, have people have resources to getting herbs, creating the herbal products. And I just want to be able to decrease some of the gap that we're seeing with the health disparities when it comes between the haves and the have-nots, especially here in Detroit. And that's really all I have to say to you guys today, but I hope you are able to keep in tune with me and what I'm doing, because I promise you I'm going to try to do my best to make us a healthier city and instill good practices in us, because that is what drove me to this field anyway. And I'm not trying to do it in a way where I'm trying to tell you that everything you're doing is bad, because one, that's a turnoff. And when I was seeing patients in Arizona, they liked that I was okay with them doing certain things as long as they knew and understood what negative effects it would have. So I'm really big on education. I'm really big on making sure people know why certain things are bad for them and why they shouldn't do it. But I'm not your mother. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do and berate you about it. But I do want you to understand why those things might not be the best things for you. So I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to bash you over the head. I'm not going to try to just demand a buttload of money from you either, because I want to focus on those health disparities and decreasing the gap with them. And hopefully you'll be able to be around for the ride.